Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today, and welcome to Masca's first Swarmuda of 2024. Our theme today will be about technology, and we have highly distinguished speakers joining us here today to discuss more about this. My name is Candice, and I'm the Advocacy Officer of Masca National. On behalf of Masca, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are all gathering from. I would like to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Once again, we would like to thank everyone joining us here today for Masca's first Swarmuda of the year, Revolusi Technology, a fitting topic reflective of the rapidly advancing industry that's impacting us today. Before we get started, let me provide a quick overview of today's session. 1 hour of the webinar will be allocated for discussion and 30 minutes for a free Q&A session. During the panel discussion, feel free to leave any of your questions in our comment section of the Facebook Live page. That way, they can be raised during the Q&A session later. And please note, we will only accept appropriate questions. Our session today is being recorded and will be posted on our Facebook page along with our new YouTube channel. We will also be sharing a feedback form as a QR code at the end of the webinar. I would also like to remind everyone that we will be hosting a lucky draw at the end of the event. This is only open to participants who have registered through our link and of course you stick through the end. If you haven't registered yet, do so now via the QR code on the screen and the form will be closed in a few minutes. Remember, you may be one of our 3 lucky winners who are selected to win gift card prizes worth nearly $100. Now let's start officially our discussion on today's topic. Over the past decade, we've witnessed a remarkable surge in technological advancements that have not only transformed the way we live, study, and work, but have also positioned Malaysia to strive to become a digitally driven nation. Malaysia has been actively working to create a tech-friendly environment that facilitates the growth of tech industries as well as digital services. However, there have been obstacles faced by the industry and citizens in this tech revolution. Simultaneously, AI has posed challenges to students, leaving many uncertain of their tech skills and other capabilities. Today, we are honored to have with us valuable panelists who possess diverse experiences in the area of technology. Through this Swarmuda, we aim to shed light on digitalization policies in Malaysia and challenges and opportunities that await students. We want to hear how Malaysia should move forward to become a key player in the global tech arena. Our first speaker will be Datin Professor Dr. Samim Binti Abdul Karim, who completed her education in mathematics and computing at the Universities of Malaya and Cardiff. She's currently an academic at the Department of Artificial Intelligence at UM and has successfully supervised a number of master and PhD candidates, acting as an examiner both in and outside of Malaysia. Previously, she served esteemed roles in the deanery for UM's Faculty of Computer Science and IT and editor-in-chief for the Malaysian Journal of Computer Science. Datin, welcome and thank you for joining us. We also have with us today Gan Yu Pin, a computer science student at the University of Melbourne. He too carries many accomplishments, being a current research intern at the Complex Human Data Hub of UniMel. He was also named Top 100 graduate by the Australian Financial Review this year and was a finalist for being Undergraduate of the Year by the Faculty of Engineering and IT. He has served in leadership positions for the Women in Tech and Hack Melbourne Societies. Yupin, thank you for being here as well. Now that we know our speakers, let's begin with our discussion. We want to explore the current digital landscape of Malaysia, along with government initiatives related to technological industries. As we go into that, we must also recognize the challenges that lie ahead for both the tech industry and the citizens of Malaysia. On the other hand, we hope to shed light on the vast opportunities that can be harnessed for further growth. So for this section, we'd like to hear from our panelists and from Datin Samim in particular. First off, one could argue that Malaysia is not the best Asian country for growing tech companies. For example, Grab moved over to Singapore and expanded significantly there. Is the tech landscape in Malaysia different these days?
Tough question to answer. I believe Malaysia has got all kinds of opportunities to offer the students, to offer our public, and given the right environment, given the right climate, we would do well in technology. However, sometimes we may miss the opportunity. I think as far as Grab is concerned, we missed that particular opportunity because we were probably not thinking far ahead. So with any innovation, it's uh, a, a trade-off between brilliance in technology and also the right climate to to jump and to be able to identify this is it, this is going to work, this is what's going to turn the world. And if you look at past innovations, that's what it is. People were able to identify and to say this is what's going to make it work. Facebook, Google, you know, these are some of the examples I can think of. It's not that we are lacking in the technology, but perhaps in the foresight of being able to identify what's going to make it work. And Grab is, of course, uh, the classic example that you can use in any conversation of this sort.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for that. Yes, and Yuping, would you like to share something?
Yeah, I guess I agree with Dr. Sameem here. I think Malaysia does have a lot of potential when it comes to our current growing generation. With our involvement in tech, there's, I think, so much that we can do as a generation to solve specific problems, especially in the Southeast Asia domain. Having said that, though, I do think that the current landscape in Malaysia is particularly challenging at the moment. I mean, just looking at the facts, right? We have a particularly weaker currency at the moment. Our change of government, we've been having quite a few changes, not to take any sides or anything, but just because there are changes in the government that could be just instilling a bit of doubt when it comes to companies coming in from outside the country. So, it's things like that that could kind of shake things up in Malaysia, but I don't think that's a reason to be scared of, starting things here. There's a lot of potential here. Yeah.
Yeah, and just continuing on from that, do you then think that technological regulations are sufficiently updated to encourage the industry's growth in the country?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you think then that tech regulations are sufficiently updated to encourage the industry's growth in the country?
Yeah, I guess I'm not too familiar with the regulations at the moment. Maybe Dr. Samin could chip in for that.
Actually, this is not my forte either, but I believe the MCM is doing its best in order to regulate, the misuse of technology rather than regulating technology itself. But having said that, somebody was talking about self-driving cars, and an example for regulation would be, I don't believe we have any such regulations as for, the regulations have not been put into place as far as self driving cars are concerned. So there may be areas that we may need to look into, but I'm not too worried about regulations as such. We are governed by MCM. I hope I'm using the right acronym there. It's a mouthful. And if you're conscientious, as any researcher, any tech researcher, any computer science researcher, we have ethics committee in order, to approve or disapprove whatever research that we go into. And Malaysia is quite big on ethics. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. But I do have a lot to say about, well, not a lot to say, but I do have something to say about ethics in AI. And I've given talks on ethics in AI.
Yeah, perfect. We were just going into AI. So it's artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly incorporated into businesses and even governmental work in Malaysia. Dr. Sameem, how do you think the role of AI in Malaysia will evolve or change the current industries or Malaysian government services moving forward?
You'd be surprised that quite a number of industries are adopting AI in their day-to-day functioning. I've visited some companies in Shah Alam, in Klang, in which they use AI for to replace manual workers, and they use robotics to replace manual workers. And the role for AI is actually tremendous. But what I'm more concerned with is people should be aware of the opportunities provided by AI, either in day-to-day living, for business purposes, for the industry. And at the same time, they should it is imperative for any user of AI to be aware of the other side of what I call the flip side of AI. That is the ethics concerned with AI.
Yeah.
AI is used in industries such as medicine, all over the place actually. And in Malaysia, in UM, we've got a lot of research on AI in medicine. My passion is actually AI in medicine, and AI has already been used in medicine. AI is used in education. AI is used in finance. I can't think of any industry in which AI cannot be used. But as I say, we need to be aware of the other side as well. And there's just too much to talk about the other side for it to be a meaningful, discussion.
Yeah. But just giving us a brief, in medicine, what would the ethical considerations be like when using AI, especially in Malaysia?
Okay, the AI is not a replacement for a doctor. At the end of the day, it aids the doctor in making decisions. It helps the doctor in probably providing a diagnosis, but at the end of the day, we still need the human touch. At the what we need to be aware is AI is not there to replace the human being. It is there to help the human being, and it should be used bearing in mind that we are dealing with human beings. So the human touch or the humanities should not be ignored. Like I said, there are just so many things that we need to be aware of. In countries like Japan, AI is used to help in providing care for the elderly. This can go either in healthcare or even in medicine too. It is acceptable in Japan because caregiving of the caregiver is very, very expensive. To pay for a caregiver is actually very, very expensive. But would that be acceptable in Malaysia? I don't know if you have grandparents or if you have anyone, any older relations in your family. If you were to go home and ask them, would you mind being looked after by a robot, and see what they have to say about that? I know my mother wouldn't like it. And I'm not sure if, by the time my husband reaches a certain age, and he needs that kind of care, whether he would like it. I mean, I personally don't mind because maybe I'm an introvert. But there are people who prefer other human beings. And on top of that, can we take this a little bit further? Elderly care, the opposite side to elderly care will be childcare. That is also a concern for a lot of people with working women, with in Malaysia, we need 2 income in order for us to have a comfortable life. So who's going to look after the children? So far, we've been relying on nurseries, childcare facilities, even foreign maids. Can we have robots looking after children? There must be regulations to be put in place in order for us to do that. But would you like your children to be brought up by robots? What about values? Can robots impart these values? I know robots are what we put in them. Whatever values we give them is what they will have. They're not religious. They have no religion. They have no values. They have no emotions. But would you like your children to be brought up by someone who has no emotion? They may look beautiful. Sophia is very beautiful, but at the same time, is that what you want for your next generation? So there are a lot of things to be there. Well, like I say, pros and cons to everything.
Yep, definitely. And I think with the example you brought up about in Japan, and it's because they have such an aging population that AI sort of helps, well, not create a solution, but it slows down the bad effects of just having such a large aging population. And yeah, I think that's one of the opportunities you mentioned about the other side. And yeah, Yuping, do you have any opinions about this?
Yeah, I think originally when you were asking about governments utilizing AI, I think one thing that jumped to my mind quite a while back was just security concerns. I think, for example, large firms, they don't they don't encourage the use of stuff like ChatGPT back then because if I'm not wrong, ChatGPT used to have human feedback, which means that whatever you gave it, whatever you gave to ChatGPT, they actually could kind of see from the back end, and that's how they sort of train their models. So yeah, that's probably a very huge security concern. Like if for a big large language model like ChatGPT, you have concerns like that, could you really go and like try using any of the other large language models, right? But I know AI isn't just about large language models, but I think that's one example I could pick up that most people would have actually used recently. So I think that's something that we should also keep in mind as well. I know Professor Samin's probably very well versed in this. There's a lot of concerns when it comes to security and just sharing private and confidential data on ChatGPT or just using anything. I think for the medical case as well, there's a lot of concern around HIPAA rules, especially when you start sharing patient information like that. So there's still quite a lot to be worked on, but it's a very promising future, I think.
Yeah.
To add to that, actually, with any use of technology, privacy and security would be a concern. But privacy and security is not a technological problem. It is a human problem. Sharing of data, confidential data, the computers are not going to do that. It is the human being that is going to do that. So we must think in terms of human beings when we're talking about security. We can put all the security measures in place, but at the end of the day, it is the human being that's going to break the security, that's going to hack into the system and share data or expose data. So again, what we really need in this technological world is a good cause in humanities.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely very interesting. And it's because, well, there are a lot of concerns with just technology always updating, always becoming on the rise. And I think sometimes we may lose track of that human touch and just being able to think about concerns with ethics and with privacy, with everything moving so fast. Yeah, and what are the recommendations that you would actually give to government policies as technology is increasingly becoming on the rise?
I think as far as technology is concerned, it is a lifetime learning. If you're not willing to learn, if you think that, okay, I've got a degree or I've got a master's, I've got a PhD, I can stop learning now, then don't be involved in the technological field. As far as AI is concerned, it's lifetime learning. It's a matter of being prepared to upskill, reskill yourself. And anyone who's in charge of policy making should be in that field. And I believe that I've met a few of them as far as the government is concerned. I believe they're very young, vibrant people who knows that this is something that they need to do. That you must be prepared to learn, and you must be prepared to tell yourself that you can't stop learning. And I'd like to go back to what you say about ChatGPT just now. Now, ChatGPT is very, very useful, but ChatGPT can also be misused. And a ChatGPT is not infallible. Yeah, it has its weaknesses. And in one of my classes, I actually demonstrated ChatGPT's weaknesses in solving mathematical problems. So if, as a student, you are relying on ChatGPT for your assignments or for your projects, I ask you to be very, very careful. You can use it maybe as a means of comparing your answers with what ChatGPT has to say, and it would be more prudent for fields such as history or the social science aspects. But ChatGPT makes ChatGPT failed in some of the topics that we've given it.
Yeah, would you like to share more?
Yeah, I definitely second that. Having just graduated, I think I'm learning more now than I've ever had just like starting my degree. I have to constantly keep reading, keep learning, and because I do want to be more involved in the field of AI, that just means I have to keep doing this reading for the rest of my
Yes.
life. But that's part of the fun, I believe. And on the topic of challenging ChatGPT, there's this very fun exercise that I think my lecturers used to ask me to do, which was to sort of make it solve something and see if you can pick its mistakes, because it's very good at convincing you it's correct, but it might not necessarily be correct. I think it's a very good exercise, like just mentally speaking, just to challenge it and see if it's correct or wrong. And just I think that sort of boils back down to, the fundamentals that you learn in school, not just university, I guess, but like back in high school. More than ever now, you have to be really strong when it comes to your fundamental knowledge. The way you learn has to really boil down to understanding concepts rather than just memorizing them. Because guess what? ChatGPT is pretty good at that. So ChatGPT may not be very good at reasoning, and that's, I think, where we have to step in. So having that ability to reason, I mean, AI might replace that someday, but for now, I think it's really important, especially in understanding when it comes to whether or not, AI is giving us the right or wrong thing, since everything just seems so convincing at the moment.
Yeah, totally agree. ChatGPT is not only good at trying to convince, but when you tell it that it's made a mistake, it even apologizes. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah. And just with the increasing use of AI, would you two have any tips or suggestions to be more, or at least the students out there using AI, would there be any tips or suggestions to be more aware of how to use them, well, correctly in a sense, or with further awareness?
In day-to-day work, or in assignments, or
In assignments or in day-to-day work, just being able to use AI the best it can.
okay. No, AI can be used for a lot of things. It can be used to prepare your resume. You can use AI to look for jobs. You can use AI as a skill development, because there are a lot of AI powered tools which offer personalized learning experiences. AI can also be used to get to know other people, networking, get to know, help students or graduates expand their professional network. Again, there are tools for this. AI can be used for interview preparation, and the list goes on and on. But if, as what we have mentioned earlier, if you're using AI for assignments, then don't take what is offered, without checking the contents. You must do your own homework. And I'm using this term homework generically. Okay, so you do your own homework. And if you're not convinced that you are going the right way, maybe you can use platforms like ChatGPT to help you. But as I said, ChatGPT is not fallible. It's not infallible. There are mistakes that ChatGPT has made. So as far as doing your assignments, there are a lot of tools which you can use in the market that will help you. And this is a very interesting phase of our, of a student's life or a graduate's life, and AI is there to help you. Okay.
Yeah, and Eugene, would you like to share something?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Can't remember what I was gonna say, but yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky in the sense that I actually had to spend most of my degree without ChatGPT. And in the final year, you can really see people's color when something like ChatGPT comes in for the very first time. And anyone and everyone was trying to figure out what you could really do with it. Academics were trying to figure out how do you catch people using ChatGPT. Students realizing that they can get away, they will just submit whatever nonsense they submitted to ChatGPT into their homework. And I guess now it's not really the same anymore, but I think the same things still apply. Please don't randomly send things into ChatGPT, copy paste, and push it out, thinking that your lecturers won't catch you, because ChatGPT does have this very weird, uncanny valley tone, I think, and they will probably notice it. But I think in general, if you do want to try and use it to help you be more productive, I would suggest looking at platforms. You don't necessarily always have to use ChatGPT. In fact, I think it's not doing too well at the moment. So yeah, there are specific fine-tuned models that you can look at. There are specific platforms. Just I think look it up. You'll find plenty at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
To add to that, there are actually a lot of AI-based tutoring tools. Yeah, tools like Coursera, Duolingo, AI algorithms, even the Khan Academy can be used to help with doing what you call it, your assignments. But there are certain institutions which do not allow paid for assignment assistant. I can't remember the name offhand, but there are some in the market in which students post their questions and they pay a fee, and the solutions are provided. Well, you have to be careful with that, because if your institution does not allow it, then it's going to be illegal. And I think it's important that students know what is right and what is wrong. This is where your humanities course come in. What is acceptable by the institution, what is not. It's like plagiarism. It's like using someone's work passing off someone's work as your own. People will say, so what? I want to get an A. I'm going to pass off. I know this is a great piece of work. I want to pass this off as my own work. So yeah, you get an A. But at the end of the day, what lessons have we learned? It is important also for the institution or for the course instructor to be able to impart to the student a lesson of right and wrong, not just a matter of getting an A, getting a first-class degree, or CGPA of 4.0. That's, at the end of the day, that's not all that's important. A person with a 4.0 CGPA, but he or she cheated throughout the course, how is he or she going to perform at the workplace? Because at the workplace, it's no longer getting a tutorial assistant to help you. It's what you know. What you have been trained in the university is put to use at the workplace. So again, a lesson in humanities.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, if you're constantly depending on these sort of things to, answer questions for your homework or to do your work, I think there has currently been a lot of discussion on how AI could be replacing people. As much as I don't think that is entirely true, if you're always depending on AI to do your work for you, well, I guess it's fair to assume that AI can replace you. So if you always want to be a step ahead, use it to help you be more productive, use it to help challenge your learning, use it to help make you be a better person, and use it for good. I think that's a good takeaway from this.
Coming back to whether AI can help replace a person, I would say yes and no to that. To a certain extent, AI can help replace manual work. We have the 4Ds, that robotics. I don't know if you're aware of the 4Ds, but I'll get into that. The 4Ds are used, to replace jobs with robots. The 4Ds are dirty, dangerous, dear, meaning expensive, and dull. Jobs which are like this, they are ideal for robots because you don't want a human being to carry out, most people don't like to carry out dirty jobs, do you? Okay, you don't want a human being to be carrying out a dangerous job. And if it is more expensive for a human to carry out the job, you might as well get something else, like a robot. And dull, repetitive jobs. I mean, these might not be a significant reason, but you'd be surprised if the job is dull or repetitive. It's also easily prone for mistakes. So with these 4Ds, a job can be better carried out by a robot or by any other AI. It may not be a full-fledged robot. It could just be a robotic arm. It could just be a robotic brain. But I'm using the term generically, any AI tool. So is this right for the robot to be doing that job, to be replacing a human being? Yes and no. Yes, if they are, human. Okay, let me use you as an example. If you don't want to do the job, why not? Let the robot do it. But in Malaysia, we have a lot of foreign workers. Right? Some of these jobs can actually be replaced by robots. And there's good and bad to this. It's good because then Malaysia will not be relying on foreign workers and our money will not be going out of the country. And when the money is not going out of the country, it will be stronger. That's what I know about the currency anyway. I'm not an expert in foreign currency and how it works. But at the end of the day, we want a strong ringgit. We don't want to be dependent on foreign workers. Okay, that is good. Okay, what's the bad side to this? Put yourself in that Indonesian or Bangladeshi or Filipino workforce. He or she is a human being earning money to care for the family, to send home, for mouths to feed, maybe an elderly mother or an elderly father, maybe children to feed. So from the human's point of view, this is not very good. So again, there are two sides to the coin. Can AI replace jobs? Certain jobs, yes, it can. But do we want that? Is it good? Yes, from certain perspective, it is good. But there is always the other side of the coin.
Yeah, definitely. There's always pros and cons when it comes to technological advancements, and that what I've learned throughout is well, with all these, it's definitely technology and humans. It's that interaction that's important, and it's not only the advancements that are going forward. So, well, when it comes to technological advancements, jobs will definitely change, especially in the tech industry. For example, students in computer or data science majors. What do you think those jobs will look like in the near future? How will it change as you progress?
Jobs will be dependent on technology, true. But it's not it's not the end of the world, so to say. You still need soft skills. You still need the ability to speak, the ability to critically think, the ability to solve problems. And these are what we call the soft skills. I don't know why it's called the soft skills, but it is called the soft skills. And reasoning is something that is very much needed. So I think a graduate should equip, any graduate should equip herself with these skills, soft skills. At the same time, the graduate should also be equipped with technical skills so that, when they're speaking and when they're trying to impress an interviewer, they are not, they don't portray themselves as someone who is not knowledgeable. So knowledge is needed. Current knowledge, not just knowledge in a particular field. Of course, you need to be, if you're trying to sell yourself for a particular field, you need to be knowledgeable in that field. So jobs will be more technologically inclined, but you need these technical skills, but at the same time, you need soft skills. And by soft skills, let's go back to basics. Language and mathematics are the two things that is really needed for soft skills. Mathematics comes in handy when you're coding, actually, even if you're not coding, critically thinking. Now, mathematics actually groom you critically. It gives you the practice of logical thinking, of step-to-step thinking, systematic thinking, and it's the foundation of AI, believe it or not. Language, if you are not well versed in any particular language, it doesn't matter what language it is, you must have one particular language that you are well versed in. Either it's Bahasa Malaysia, if you want to work in Malaysia, in Malaysian government, or English. English is widely used in Malaysia. Or maybe we may want to get a job in China, so that would be Mandarin. So whatever jobs that you are thinking of, and wherever you want to work, be well versed in that language, because it's that language that is going to help you. You cannot argue critically, you cannot reason with anyone if you don't have that language ability. So I'm just going to say that the basic tools are the tools that you learn in school, not even in secondary school, in primary school, language and mathematics. These are the two things. And of course, STEM education is so important. And I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess applying that to what you were talking about earlier. So like, because how do I put this? When we talk about like language and math, right? These things, I mean, we still use them on a day-to-day basis. They're not really going anywhere. Like for example, you mentioned data science earlier. I mean, yes, maybe the landscape will change, but for most jobs out there, you're still balancing stakeholders. So maybe your boss, your customers, and being able to convince them of things, being able to, do some crisis management. Those are skills that are not really going to go away. And that really boils down to sort of your soft skills, which is what Dr. Samim was saying. So yeah, these are things that we should continue working on. And whether or not there is AI, these things won't really change.
Yeah. And do you think that, universities are providing or equipping students with these soft skills, hard skills adequately?
I can only speak from the perspective. Now, in we take soft skills very seriously. In fact, in my faculty, we have a course that what we affectionately term as K2B2. The title of the course is a mouthful, so we call it K2B2. It's actually a thinking course, a reasoning course, and it also has I think presentation. So it's a soft skill course. It's a light course. It's 100% coursework, so there are no exams. There are a lot of presentation, a lot of thinking projects and reasoning projects, and that is meant to help them with their soft skills. And as far as technology is concerned, in we have what we call the SHE courses. SHE stands for Scholastic Student Holistic Empowerment, I believe, if I'm not wrong. I've got it written here somewhere, but I is the SHE courses. Okay, so there are 4 modules to the course, and 2 of them are in the technology field. So these courses are to be taken by students from other fields. So this semester I was teaching the AI course. So all the students in the course are students who are not computer science students. They are not AI students. We give them a brief exposure in terms of 1 semester, exposure to AI. And this sort of courses actually opens up their mind a lot. Although they don't do coding as such, but they were given a project. It was like a hackathon. A hackathon is a competition, and we were quite impressed with the results that the student came up with. So the project showed that the student had innovation, and they were able to understand the basic concepts of AI and use it to solve a particular problem. So it's like everything that we would want in a student: critical thinking, problem solving, presentation, and using AI. So these kind of courses actually help students become a bit more holistic. This is what AI is doing, but I believe other universities have their own set of courses that will help students in particular fields, students from the humanities who need to be more tech exposed, students from the tech field or engineering field who needs to be more exposed to maybe law or humanities.
Yeah. Yeah, Yupin, would you like, you actually were in the hackathon club. So what did you think about Dr. Samin's points?
No, I totally agree. Having done like quite a few myself, hackathon's like probably one of the fastest way you can pick up something. If you really want to know what it's like to be doing something in a particular field, maybe try a hackathon. You'd really be digging yourselves into the fire. But yeah, but just trying to fall back onto what you asked, I can also only speak for UniMelt since I've only ever done that uni. I think there's like a slightly different way of approaching it. Not to say whether it's better or worse, but we don't really have these sort of subjects when it comes to like, practicing your soft skills, or like a more lighthearted subject when it comes to exposing students to maybe tech students into non-tech fields or non-tech students into tech fields. Usually for us, so for example, for me, if I wanted to learn something about like, let's say psychology, I have to literally take the entire unit that psychology students would be taking. So I recently took a 3rd-year subject that's on psychology, and my classmates were all psychology majors. So that's just kind of how it works for us. But I mean, there's pros and cons to that and everything. But I think UniMap has more of an emphasis on practicing these sort of skills while you're doing your subjects.
Mm.
And which means that I find myself having to take a lot more initiative when it comes to learning my soft skills. It's part of the reason why I joined this many clubs anyway. But going out, like no matter what university you go to, if you want to put your soft skills into use and actually want to try and do something, going to join clubs is probably a really great way of doing that. Just being able to talk to other club members, being a committee, you have to manage your sponsors, you have to talk to faculty. There's so much things you could do there to practice your soft skills. That's probably one. And also it opens you up to a lot of other opportunities as well. It's how I met other tech clubs. It's how I got to meet other people who are in the industry. And that's sort of how I gained more tech knowledge. And at the same time, I got to see what like non-tech stuff is also like. So if I wanted to learn more about law and all that, I have now contacts that I could probably approach. So that's probably a good way of doing it too.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Well, great. Well, Datin Samim and Yupin, thank you so much for sharing your insights during that interesting discussion. I think everyone out there would definitely learn a lot from fearing that tech or AI will replace their jobs. And it's just, well, there's always the good and bad, and there is always room for improvement. But as students, I think what we can do is definitely to keep in mind that soft skills are still important, and we can always level up our tech skills and definitely take advantage of the growing AI capabilities as well. So what I want to do is now move on to the Q&A session, and perhaps this session is what we've all been waiting for the most. During the discussion, we received some very interesting questions from our panelists, and we look forward to hearing what they have.
Can I just interrupt for a minute? Before we go on, I'd just like to correct something. I'm no longer the Dean of the Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology in UM. I'm actually retired, but I'm an honorary professor in the faculty. And I'm also a fellow of the Academy of Sciences, Malaysia. So to call myself the Dean, that is wrong. Maybe
Yeah.
ex-Dean. Yeah.
Ex-Dean? Datin Samim then. Right. Thank you for that. And yeah, moving on to the Q&A session. And let's begin with our first question. Do you think that we have reached the end of innovation? Would anyone like to answer this?
I'll leave it to Nicholas and then I'll add on to it. What do you think, Nicholas?
Yupin?
Me. Well, I mean, I think that's a really simple answer to that. No? Yeah, I'm currently also in the field of research, and there's this because I'm doing a bit of large language modeling like stuff myself. There is this page called daily papers, which literally just means the new papers in the field, and they're always sort of breaking walls. And I mean, just look at the new models of like large language models. Like I don't think we're anywhere near the end of innovation. In fact, I think we're only at the very beginning. So we're gonna start to see a lot of changes in many different fields. So yeah, yeah, there's still quite a lot that we can do.
To add to that, I think as long as there are human beings in this world, we will not reach the end of innovation. Human beings are very creative. We are creative. Our life is such that when we are faced with challenges, we become invariably innovative. And if we are happy, or rather we are satisfied with what we have, we strive to have better life. As long as we are human being with the ability to go on in life, we will be innovative because we want to make our lives better, not just for us, for our future generation, for our fellow humankind. And I don't believe that we have reach even the middle of if it's a timeline in innovation. I don't think we have even reached the middle. There are so much more that we can do, and there's so many brilliant people out there just waiting to be discovered, waiting to come out with their brainchild.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, thank you for that. And now, can we have the next question? Okay, what should we prepare ourselves with for the future of technology in work setting?
For future technology, I think what we will need is the ability to learn. As long as we are prepared to learn, we should be able to prepare ourselves for increasingly more difficult or increasingly more challenging technology in the workplace. Actively to improve their own tech skills. I think there are a lot of tools out there, the online courses, online tutorials that you can help yourself with. There are coding challenges, hackathons, as Nicholas, it is Nicholas, isn't it?
Yupin.
Yupin.
It's all right.
I keep calling you Nicholas, sorry.
It's all right.
Oh yeah, Yupin, yeah. Hackathons, you know, as you said, this actually opens up a whole new world. You see how things work, you know, how we can learn faster in such a short time span. There are also a lot of open source contributions. You know, you can use open source projects to learn about to learn a new programming language, for instance. Now, in the old days, when I first started learning programming language, we were dependent on Fortran and huge computer in an exclusive lab. Now, you can learn coding in the comfort of your own room. You can learn R, you can learn Python, and all these things doesn't need special equipment. All of us, most of us, I should say, have a laptop or a desktop in which we can help, you know, to learn, which we can use to learn coding. We can do personal projects. Lecturers should actually encourage students to work on projects, and this will in some way or other, they will be using some kind of technology in order to complete the projects. Internships is a good way to learn something, to be prepared for something in the workforce. And also, if you're going back to university after the internship, it will have something that will help you in the university, in the course. Networking and mentoring is a good way to learn things. You get to know people, as Yupin mentioned. He got to know people from the law field and also from the psychology field, and he knows what course to take from the people that he met. So mentoring, networking is a good way. Mentoring is actually a good way to learn something, because when you are trying to teach someone, you must be good at that field. If you're not good, you go and learn it first. You don't want to teach maybe a fellow student or a student, a junior, something which is not right. So when you do that, when you are mentoring a particular student or a group of students, you are also teaching yourself something. Of course, you can read books, technical books, blogs, websites, e-books, magazines, and so on. You can explore, you can experiment. You want to learn how to do machine learning. There are so many online tutorials. You can explore, you can download whatever is required based on what the tutorial recommends. There are even data available for you to explore. You can ask friends. Peer review is a wonderful way of learning. If you've got a good friend who's willing to teach you, that is a good way to learn. Um, Attending workshops like that, well, platforms like this, either what would we call this? A webinar like this, or maybe you can attend a workshop or a conference. All these things will help you learn new things. In fact, I was exposed to AI in a workshop, and this was in the 90s when people in Malaysia were not even talking about AI. And I've been involved in AI from then on. And it was only, I think, about maybe 5 to 10 years ago that AI has picked up in Malaysia, maybe even shorter than that. Yeah, so you learn a lot of things when you attend conferences, when you attend seminars. In some universities, they have weekly seminars that staff attend, and sometimes they're open to students. Now, if you get a chance to do that, please do so, because that will open a lot of opportunity, open your mind, expose you to new findings. Okay.
And yeah, would you like to add anything?
Yeah. So I totally agree with that. I think one thing that's always on my mind now whenever I'm doing things, it's sort of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that is a, a needed mentality nowadays, especially when you're entering new scenes, when like things are constantly innovating. How do you stay on top of things? Like what I think Dr. Samim said earlier as well, I got involved in a field called quantum computing, and that was because I attended a hackathon. I walked in, and everyone there was at least at a PhD level. I was in my first or second year of my bachelor degree. I didn't know what I could really do there. Most of them were physicists who could, for some reason, code better than me. But I think just being in that room surrounded by these really intelligent people opened my eyes to so many new fields of, I think my project was on data sonification, and I didn't even know what that was until I tried a bit of it, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you could visualize data in this whole new way, or how you could use quantum computers to do like such cool new things. And all these kind of things you really would not have learned unless you're actively looking for it, or you're just constantly trying out new things. And I think that's a good thing for tech and non-tech students to be exploring as well. If you're a tech student, I would probably urge people to just go and explore new things and see how they can use their tech knowledge to help other fields. And that could open up a lot of opportunities for them. For me, for example, I also recently started looking into the medical field because I think someone wanted something to do with multiple sclerosis and how like tech could help with that sort of field. And to me, that's pretty interesting. I think there's like a breakdown of medical prediction, prognosis, and diagnosis, something like that. Dr. Smith would probably know a lot about this, but like, yeah, these are things I would not have known unless I put myself out there and try and learn more about it. And then for non-tech students, I suppose you could see how tech could help your field of work. Um, I think I personally use a lot of resources online, like just to name drop a few things. I think I use stuff like edX, Coursera, a bunch of Ivy League schools actually. Surprisingly, they just put all their resources online for free. Literally just go look it up. You'll find like MIT courses that are free, Stanford CS lectures there, just all you could just watch however long you want. And the best part is you don't have to pay for that. So I think that is really cool that you could do nowadays. Probably something that you couldn't really do this back then. I also have my lecturers telling me about how they would have to submit their code in like batches back then. When you had to use supercomputers to actually submit code, and you would only find out about your results like the next few days.
Yep.
Yeah, so we are very lucky to now be able to do all of that within our fingertips. You don't even need to install anything, in fact. Just look up like an online IDE and you could probably start messing around yourself. But yeah, tech's a very busy field at the moment. And I think just touching, like just being experienced with things here and there and giving things a try might really expand your horizons. And who knows, maybe that could be your new field that you're interested in the future.
Yeah.
Let me just add, if you're willing to come out of your comfort zone and you're willing to explore and experiment, tech should not be something you're scared of.
Yep, definitely. So now let's move on to the next question. As a future doctor, what skills would I need to avoid being taken over by technology?
Okay. As a future doctor, okay, in the first place, you should be a good doctor first, yeah? You should know your field so that nobody can tell you what you're doing is not right. You must have good bedside skills. That is very important. And then at the same time, if you feel that your establishment is using technology and you don't want to be taken over by technology, then you must have these technical skills. You must explore what are the options available to you, what can be used in order for you to become a better doctor. Like I've used AI for diagnosis. I've used AI for prognosis in my research. AI can be used for diagnosis, for prognosis. It can also be used as an expert system. So if you know how AI or whatever technology can be used in order to make you a better doctor, then you should not be overtaken by the technology, because that's not the aim of technology. It's not there to replace the doctor. Medicine is a field in which we will never replace the doctor, but it is there to help the doctor. If, say, the doctor comes out with a certain diagnosis, but the system gives you a different diagnosis, you may want to see where the difference is. Why is it that you're coming up with different solutions? And then maybe an expert system may be able to help you. Or if you have a senior who is very well known in the field, but that senior is very old, she may be leaving the field soon. We want to capture that expertise. That's where expert systems come in. So as a doctor, my husband is actually a doctor. He's an oncologist. He tells me doctors these days no longer carry stethoscopes around their neck. In those days, doctors go around with stethoscopes around their neck. Now what they do is they carry pen drives in their pocket. So, yeah, technology is there to help the doctor, not to replace the doctor. And the doctors that are going into that particular arena must equip themselves with the knowledge in order to cope, not just to cope, to be able to carry the job well. Okay, but at the end of the day, it's your basic qualification first.
Yeah. I don't know if I watched too many movies or something, but I really do not want robots to be monitoring me and telling me what's wrong with me, as of now at least. Especially since I've seen some of the current like state-of-the-art machineries and all that, and most of them are currently tools that actually help doctors be more accurate and more efficient. None of them would replace anything doctors would do. And I don't think patients would be too comfortable with that either. So it really shouldn't be something future doctors should be worried about, unless you're currently over relying ChatGPT for your diagnosis
No.
or something. That is a
No.
terrible thing to do.
Again, I would like to add that there are tools, robotic tools that help medical doctors give radiotherapy to targeted areas in patient. So these are with the help of technology. So something that it will just target the cancer cells without hurting the surrounding healthy cells. There are tools that help doctors with planning to give treatment to patients, and these are all technological tools that helps the doctor, not to replace the doctor. As Yupin mentioned, I also don't want to be treated by a robot. Again, you want the soft skills, the human touch. At the end of the day, it is the human touch that we want. As patients, I'm sure any patient will tell you the same.
Thanks for that. And yeah, so tech is just for doctors to work alongside and aid, not to replace. And now on to the next question. Can Malaysia's multicultural society somehow be an asset to our tech industry?
Okay. The way I look at it is our multicultural society brings a lot of benefits to it because we have different perspectives on things. With our different races, we have different beliefs, we have different cultures, we have different celebrations, and this can all come in to make our life more meaningful. Okay, let's, for instance, take tourism industry. Now, the tourism industry actually benefits from technological improvements. Recommender systems are something that can be used in the tourism industry. You have AI personalized travel agents. I believe the wealth of culture that comes from our society can be used productively and in a positive way to enrich the experience. Offhand, that's what I can think of as far as tourism is concerned. As far as business opportunities, again, exposure to different cultures is always beneficial, and we can even use it for promoting certain products and so on. Let me think a little bit more. Maybe Yupin can help.
Yeah, I think especially in the medical field, there's always been this issues in like recognition, if I'm not wrong, when it comes to different skin colors and like skin diseases, that sort of thing. The fact that we're multicultural, you'll see plenty of different skin colors in Malaysia. That is usually a technical challenge when it comes to other countries, but here I think that's something that we can benefit from learning. And like just to talk about cultural differences, right? Well, I think we're all brought up in very, very different ways now, especially with the impact of globalization. I think some of us are brought up in a more, not so Malaysian way than others. So there are these very huge differences in the way people are being brought up. And because of that, that could severely impact a lot of the different technologies that are out there today. But it could also mean that we have quite a lot of opportunities to learn and understand how these cultural differences could impact the way technologies behave. And I think, yeah, that is something that Malaysia can look forward to benefiting actually.
I'm glad Yupin brought up the topic on skin color. I actually had a PhD student working on that, detecting different skin colors. And yeah, as you said, if you're in the West, you would have only two or three skin tone, whereas in Malaysia we've got a spectrum of skin colors, and that student has actually did a good job in his work, and there are a few articles published in that area based on the work done. Yeah, so that's where our multicultural comes in. Also, skin diseases, that's also when you need to detect I can't remember the term now, but lesions on skin. So having different kind of skin color data images helps. So that's where our multicultural society comes in. Facial recognition, of course, but that's an old topic already.
Yeah, and I think psychologically as well. I was lucky to witness a project that was trying to use like large language models to see if they could sort of be of an assistance or in some way, like in quotations, replace what psychiatrists or therapists might be doing. It is a very far-fetched idea, but it is just one that people are just trying out. And I think there was a very interesting conversation brought up in that research, which was that they've trained the model and it was giving pretty all right responses, like something you would expect out of ChatGPT. But one of the researchers came from I think a Colombian background, and because of that, I think it entirely broke the way the model was responding. And I think we likely see the same kind of cases here. And there's a lot that I think other countries might be able to learn from Malaysia, especially when you try and merge all these different cultures together, the way people are brought up differently. That would change the very way you approach people when it comes to mental health or just any other aspect, like let's say medical diagnosis. It would change the way you respond to that when it comes to different upbringings. So I would assume, at least, Dr. Samim can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably not the same when it comes to different cultures.
Yes, cancer diagnosis and prognosis is actually race, culture, race. Race and culture comes hand in hand. Actually plays a large role in that, and also in treatment methods. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you both. And now we'll move on to the next question. Activity is growing in diverse sectors, from fintech to health tech. What trends do you see going forward in terms of this? Which sectors should tech graduates keep an eye out for?
I think since it was brought up so much earlier, and I've also been seeing this myself, education is starting to become pretty big. Attending university is expensive and everything. A lot of people are looking to other ways they can supplement their learning or even sometimes replace their sort of traditional education, as some may feel. So I think education, or particularly edutech, how I think there's a lot of they call it MOOCs. Some of the websites I've mentioned earlier, they're that sort of just large learning platforms, that sort of stuff, but also the technology that helps universities or the schools in general, how they can help assist students in their learning and accelerate their learning. I think that has been a very big field recently.
I totally agree there. Education is very big. Technology can help education in a very big way. At the same time, what I want to say is it's not one particular industry. You know, technology is actually demarking boundaries. So you might have a job in, say, London, but you can work from Malaysia. So I think this is something that we might see a lot more of this. We saw a lot of it during the COVID time, when we were all working from home, studying from home. You know, we did that wonderfully for three maybe more months, and with meetings like this, classes like this, opportunities like this. So I think that the world is going to become smaller and smaller, and as far as wanting to work from the comforts of the home, that should be something that is I see a lot more of that in future. My own son-in-law actually works from the home. He doesn't go out to the office at all, and apparently it's only once or twice a year that he has to attend a management meeting. Then he will have to go to the office, but that doesn't happen often. He doesn't even have a pager, so as long as he logs into the computer, and as long as he's able to finish the work given to him, he's considered working. So there's no one to see that you work. You don't have to log in, log out. There's no one to see, no big brother looking over your shoulder to see that you're actually behind your desk doing your work. And I think that makes for a better environment, better working environment.
Yeah, I think we're very lucky right now to have that sort of benefit. And at the same time, I think we're also very fortunate to be at a time where any industry could really benefit from AI. So if you want to really talk about trends in the industry that you'll start to see benefiting from I think right now we have to be the people who see these sort of opportunities to create the trends. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we move on to the final minutes of our session today, I'm just going to ask one last question. How should students network effectively, especially at events where there are many people and it's hard to stand out?
All right. How to network effectively. Now, the main thing is if you know that there is an expert in a particular field in that at that event, and you want to get to know that person, you may have to overcome your initial shyness or your initial feeling of inferiority, and just approach that person. And a name card would be handy. If you don't have a name card, just go up, say hello. I'm from such a organization. I've read so much about you. I've read your articles, or I've heard about this and that you've done. I'm so happy to meet you. That would be a sure way to, at least as far as the expert is concerned, you've introduced yourself, so you've made yourself known to an expert. And I've used this a few times also in my capacity as a lecturer, researcher, educator. It's actually overcoming your initial whatever inferiority, that complex that I know it's not easy to go up to a well-known person, and especially if you're just a student, third year student in the university. In the first place, that person may not even say anything to you, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people who are well-mannered would speak to a person when approached in that particular way. But you have to be polite. You have to be, you have to know what to say the right things. That is approaching someone. Or if you don't get that particular chance in a question and answer session, even if it's not a question, maybe an observation, or maybe just an opportunity to thank the speaker. So again, that would be able to draw attention to yourself. Maybe you can share a similar kind of research that you're carrying out with that person, with the speaker, or with a member of the panel. These are some of the ways that I can think of.
Yeah, I think I found that doing your due diligence is really important. If it's an expert you're trying to approach, maybe just do a little lookup on the kind of research that they're doing, and that could help you maybe kickstart a conversation if that's what you're intending to do. Or let's say if it's some kind of recruiter at your university or a big company that you maybe want to work for, try and look up for things that are happening at the company, maybe new opportunities that might be coming up, or maybe, hey, AI is a big thing right now. Is there anything, future graduates like me could be working on at your company? Just these sort of really random questions, or maybe stuff that you just plug from their website. They're, I guess, useful in getting your foot in the door. But then beyond that, you really do need to have some kind of soft skills to get what you want, if that's what you're trying to do. Yeah, that's a lot of practice there. But the initial, like, I agree with Dr. Samim. I think it's always that initial barrier of trying to reach out to someone. I think it's definitely very scary. I, for one, still sometimes trip over that kind of feeling. And you just have to really just try and go for it. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? Just do your best and hope for the best.
Yeah, So do your homework and brush up on your soft skills.
Perfect summary. Thanks for that. It is now a little over 12 p.m. in Malaysia and a little over 3 p.m. for us in Melbourne, 2 in Brisbane. For those whose questions weren't answered, we'll get to you back by email. And just a quick summary, we have covered the limitations of ChatGPT in this webinar, basically the opportunities or advantages that the advancements in technology could give us, and just, well, the importance of soft skills really, besides learning about the tech stuff. So to our speakers, Datin Samim and Yupin, thank you so much for your very generous contributions to today's discussion. We'll also be contacting you later about a small token of appreciation, and your insights were very helpful, and we hope to keep in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you all. Just before we end, let us quickly complete our lucky draw session. Our random wheel will be spun, and it has selected 3 lucky draw winners. Yes, Nicholas, would you like to share who won? So Muhammad Farizon bin Alias, if you could, maybe write a comment in the Facebook chat and we'll get back to you. We still have Jeh Guan Ang. Please write a short comment in the Facebook chat. Congratulations, and we'll get back to you. And lastly, we have Muhammad Nushami Ismail. Please write a short comment in the Facebook chat. Congratulations, and we'll get back to you as well. So attendees, thank you so much for attending today, and we hope you have gained a lot from attending today's Suara Muda. I just want to remind you all to follow Masca National's social media channels to stay updated about a range of important information, from government-related announcements to information sessions like this one. And as you can tell from today's session, you will learn a lot from our panelists. So also follow the Masca chapter of your respective state. And before you leave, we really appreciate if you took the time to fill in our feedback form from the QR code via the screen. As a final word from us, please stay safe, take care, and our panelists, thank you once again.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.